It's always so loud when they say that, isn't it? Recording in progress. Okay, right. Welcome to the International Women's Day Authors Panel Discussion 2025. So here we are. I'm Helen Lewis. I'm the founder of book marketing agency and author branding agency, Literally. And it's a great pleasure for me to be able to be here and host this event. I wasn't able to do so last year due to personal reasons, and I missed it, and I was really gutted. And I watched it on playback and loved it. Like I say, it's always on. We always try and put it on YouTube. So you will be able to have a look at it later. There is a bit of feedback coming from somewhere. I'm not sure. Maybe if we all mute ourselves just for now. Just I'm very conscious of the fact that that does become quite annoying for people when they're watching on playback. I'm just going to mute you if you're not already muted. No offense or anything. Cool. Okay, right. So we're here to celebrate International Women's Day. International Women's Day is on Saturday, and I thought it'd be great to do it on Saturday, but realistically, everyone's really busy on Saturday on this. So I thought, no, let's get it on a Thursday. I was umming and ahhing about a Friday. I thought, no, nobody's going to want to do this on a Friday either. Everyone's going to be exhausted. Let's get it in on a Thursday, and here we are. So we're 2 days early for International Women's Day. Like to be ahead of the curve, you know, it's nice. And the idea behind this year's International Women's Day is something called Accelerate Action. So it's basically a call to move beyond conversations and towards actual meaningful change, which is always good when you're trying to implement any kind of changes to try and get it beyond just talking and getting a bit more action going on. And who's better, I think, than to inspire action than these incredible women who are shaping literature, they're breaking barriers, they're using their voices to make a difference. So before we dive into the discussion, just to let you know, this is, as I say, an interactive event. I do hope that you are going to ask questions and participate. So via the chat, you can participate and you can share your thoughts there. You can make comments. You can, if you agree with something someone said, then put it in there. It's really helpful. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A. So hopefully you'll be able to get involved in that way. And we've also got some schools and some libraries that are going to be watching this on playback over the next few days, which is really exciting. So big shout out and hello to all the schools and the libraries that are getting involved with this. So I'm going to ask each of you to, each of our panelists to do a very brief introduction. Just give us a little bit of a glimpse into something that you're doing, that you're working on at the moment, ideally book related, whether it's that you're promoting a book that's recently come out or in the past year, maybe you're working on a new project, maybe you've got a launch coming up soon, just to give us a little bit of a glimpse into what you're working on at the moment so everyone can kind of get a handle on who you are and where you're at. So Thelma, would you like to go ahead? Hello, Thelma, would you like to go ahead and start us off?
Hi there. So I'm Thelma Ainsworth, and I am a lawyer and budding memoirist. My first book and memoir is called I Am a Wolf Tonight, and it's due to be published next month. It's basically, it's my journey chronicling my experiences through cancer loss and complex grief. And it's going to be the first in a series that I will be publishing in the next few years. I have a confession to make. I am completely new to the publishing industry. So I hope you'd be very gentle with me.
You have extensive experience of working in different, I mean, hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about it a little bit. Maybe tell us a little bit about the other careers that you have had and have.
Well, I'm a lawyer, as I've said, but I have worked in a number of places, as you mentioned, Helen. I have worked in private practice. I have served as an officer in the armed forces, in the legal branch. So I've done quite a few things as a lawyer. It's a very versatile industry. And I'm happy to talk about that during the course of tonight. But as I say, in the publishing world, however, I am incredibly new.
We all have to start somewhere.
Yes, you have to start somewhere. But I am delighted to be here today, and obviously to mark International Women's Day, which is such an important thing. So thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome. Abiola, would you like to go next?
Hi everyone, my name's Abiola Bello. Sorry if I look exhausted. I am exhausted. Just say that. I've been on a school tour for many, many weeks. And today lands on World Book Day. So you can imagine how busy it's been. But I am working on a younger fiction series called Wild Magic, which is actually out on the 13th of March. And this is it now. I actually just have it to hand because I did the school stuff. Sorry. I think I've got a blur effect going on. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have it
there,
on.
that's fine. There's good. Yeah, hold it there.
Technology. And I am working on book 2 of Wild Magic. I have my last Emily Knight book out in April, and I've got this very special project that I'm helping to write with a very popular footballer in
Ooh.
October. So
Are you
there is
allowed
a
to
lot
say
going
who, or are
on.
we not allowed to say yet?
I am not, well, I did this with the kids. Well, no, probably not, 'cause it's going to go online, isn't it? But basically, with the kids in schools, I was like, if you can guess, I'll tell you. And they like instantly got it. And I was like, oh, that didn't give me the drama that I wanted to get and stuff. But it should be announced very soon.
Cool, very cool. So if anybody wants to guess in the chat box, we won't say yes or no, but you're very welcome to put some guesses in. Famous footballer, who writes children's books. Or is rather co-writing children's books, should I say, with
And
Abiola.
it's not Messi or Ronaldo. That's what all the kids say. Is it Messi?
Brilliant. And this is your 10th book is coming out, right?
Yeah, Emily Knight is my 10th book, and that was my first ever book. So it's really nice that it kind of ends in a roundabout way. And I also co-run with Helen a very small publishing house called Hashtag Press, which is all about diversity and debut authors, which we're really proud of, and that's done really well. And we also, because me and Helen are clearly obsessed with each other, we also run the Diverse Book Awards, which is in its 6th year, and it's become one of the UK's leading book prizes, which is very, very exciting.
According to
So
Waterstones, that's, by the way, that's not even according to us.
yeah, Waterstones actually said it, you know. I would have said it myself, but Waterstones actually said it. So we are
Thank you so much, Abiola. That's amazing. Catherine, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sorry, just had to find the unmute button then.
All right, it's all part of the fun when we're doing a virtual event.
I know, yeah. So I'm Catherine Stothart. I'm a leadership coach. In the last few years, I've mainly been working with Airbus and Google. So all my work experience has been in sort of engineering and high-tech companies. Also the author of 2 business books. One, Motivation, The Ultimate Guide to Leading Your Team, was published by Routledge a couple of years ago. And then the second one, which is actually behind me and here, How to Get On With Anyone, that's published by Pearson. That came out in 2018 originally, and it's just recently come out in a 2nd edition with extra chapters because COVID has happened since I wrote the first edition. You know, we're all into virtual communication much more. There's much more emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion now than there was in 2018. So it's got new chapters and new content. So I'm not writing anything at the moment. I guess most of my time at the moment is trying to promote, well, the 2 books really, but particularly How to Get On With Anyone because it's recently come out. So that's, you know, writing things for social media, writing articles, getting onto podcasts, trying to get speaking engagements, all the sort of hard work that when you write your first book, you're not aware of any of that. You don't really realize you have to do all that stuff. Really? So that's where I'm sort of focusing at the moment. And I've just started seeing how I can use Goodreads a bit more and other things really. So that's where I am. I'm not sure I'll ever write another whole book. Might write a short one, but it's very hard work.
It is a lot of work. People do think it's way easier than it actually is. So thank you very much. Very, very interesting. We've got lots of stuff we can dig into there. Thank you, Catherine. Sarah, would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you. So delighted to be here on World Book Day and 2 days before International Women's Day. Thanks for hosting us all, Helen. Really appreciate it.
Very welcome.
So I'm Sarah Rozenthuler. I'm the author of 3 books. I started out writing self-help. So there's a book called How to Have Meaningful Conversations published by Watkins. And then more recently, like Catherine, I've been published with Pearson and 2 leadership books for business leaders. So one is called Powered by Purpose, that hit the shelves 4 years ago. And I'm currently working with the help of Helen and team promoting my latest book, which came out last year, about a year ago. That's called Now We're Talking, How to Discuss What Really Matters. So it's tips and tools for having those tricky conversations that we often avoid rather than lean into. So that's a bit about me.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Jo, would you like to go next?
Hi there. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you, Helen, for continuing to take me into new spaces. My name's Jo Swann, and I'm still celebrating my first book, which I haven't actually seen the actual copy because I live in Borneo. I've still got this do not sell kind of version. But the book is called Turbulence, and it's based around a framework called Atlas, which helps people navigate the ambiguity and the complexity of life. It's been my manual for navigating the problems that I've had throughout my life. I'm 52 years old, and there have been many challenges, like there are for everyone on this human experience. I became a psychotherapist and I worked in clinical practice. And what I recognized was, although everyone's problems are unique and different, the pattern is the same. And so I came up with this framework to help people. And I've just loved it. And I've been in the business of transformation for more than 30 years, but now I have a manual. So yeah, it's just been exciting. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. And then last but not least, Denise.
Hello, I'm Denise. I write young adult murder mysteries. My second book, It All Started With a Lie, was published last year by Helen and Abiola, #Press. My third book is due out in June. There's a small sample there from what I did last year. So yeah, I'm a single mum of 5 children. 4 of them are daughters. So it's good to be here tonight talking about International Women's Day. Oh, and here's my dog.
Of course, dogs are allowed.
And when I'm not writing my own books, I'm a ghostwriter. So during COVID, I found myself unemployed, and I decided to put my lifelong dream of being an author into practice. And I do now work for myself, ghostwriting. So it's hard work, and there's often not a lot of headspace left for my own stuff. But it's very rewarding. Yeah, it's what I've always wanted to do.
So you're basically now earning, your full-time career, so to speak, is writing. It's in publishing now, isn't it? Which is a massive success story. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for the intros. Perfectly done, and nobody took forever talking about their stuff, so that's always appreciated. It's usually one person that likes to kind of, commandeer the space, but today we're all being fair and equal, which is rather nice. So as I said, this year's International Women's Day theme is accelerating action. So I'm going to start with you. I'm going to go in twos because I'd love to hear answers from everyone, but there's literally not enough time for me to ask all the questions, and anyone who knows me knows I've always got lots of questions. So I've got lots of questions and I just need to try and get through as many of them as possible. So I'm going to break it up into twos. So we're going to start with Sarah and Catherine. So if you want to unmute yourself, Sarah and Catherine, and be poised and ready. So basically, as I said, the theme is accelerating action. So I'd love to know what that actually means. How would you translate that, both potentially personally or professionally or both? And it doesn't just have to be in the context of the writing that you're doing. It could be in some of the wider work that you're doing. But what does accelerate action mean to you? Sarah, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I'm aware that writing in the genre of business books, the proportion of business books published by women is much lower than that published by men, as are the sales. And so there's something about not being intimidated by that. The editor that Catherine and I share at Pearson, Eloise Cook, is quite vocal about this. Because I think one of the things we could do is challenge the gatekeepers, the publishers, the commissioning editors. But at Pearson, we're in very good hands on that front. But I do look out for other women writing business books. So It's great to be connecting with Catherine. And one of the things I've done very recently, very concretely, is invited a young woman who's going to be publishing her first business book as a podcast guest onto my podcast when her book comes out. So it's just a way of holding out a hand and hoping her grow her platform early days. So there's much more I could say, but I'll hand across to Catherine.
Thank you, Sarah.
Well, to be truthful, I don't think I can add much to what Sarah's just said, because Eloise, Cook and Pearson are very good for, encouraging women writers. And as Sarah said, most business books are written by men, not women. I'm not sure what exactly we can do to change that, apart from trying to be role models ourselves, trying to get out, speaking at events, coming to things like this, encouraging girls to write, encouraging any girls that you come into contact with, encouraging them to, I don't know, go into business. Think about the tech industry, the engineering industries, not be stereotyped by other people, because I think that's what happens sometimes to women. We get stereotyped by other people. People make assumptions about what we can and can't do, and I think we have to challenge that as much as we can
and inspire younger people to feel like they can do things differently. I mean, it's true. I think there's definitely a bias towards male writers, especially in the business space. I don't have the stats, but it'd be interesting to have a look at what the actual stats are. I'm sure someone could find them out pretty quickly. But what's interesting is that I'm finding that a lot of the editorial teams within publishing are female. I don't know if that's your experience, but that's how it seems to me. But then when you get kind of higher up the rankings almost of these different sort of, especially the bigger publishing houses, it tends to then become where the men are. So I don't know. That would be, for me, that would be quite an interesting thing to change, just to try and get women into more positions of very senior leadership, rather than the sort of the grassroots roles that women's often occupy in publishing. But thank you very much for that. I think accelerating action by taking on your own role in it is a very good idea, and offering a hand up to the next generation is definitely something that we could all be doing generally, in terms of like mentorships as well. And just if you do have podcasts, or you do have some sort of platform inviting people to be part of that, I think that makes a lot of sense. Jo and Thelma, for you next, what actionable steps can we take to accelerate progress towards gender equality? And this could be in the publishing industry, or it could just actually be in a wider sense. Jo, would you like to start?
Thank you. I think awareness is where I always start with anything in terms of making any kind of change. It's taking taking a view at having a look at where are the gaps. And where is the unconscious bias? Because we would be driven by a lot of beliefs that might not be true. So I would say, awareness and unconscious bias is probably where I would start.
I think that makes sense. What about from a mindset perspective? Because obviously that's very much your area, like in terms of what we tell ourselves as women, what we can and can't do.
I mean, I was actually reflecting on this. For me, it was yesterday, because I was in the tech industry in the 90s. And I can't recall another female. I was the only one. I was actually saying to my husband, I can't remember there being another woman around. And so he said, well, how did you handle that? And I was like, I didn't actually see it as a barrier, honestly. I created my own space. I knew I was different. And so I used that. I used my femininity, I used my boldness, I used my cheekiness, I used everything. So I think maybe owning your own space is and being bold. I
mean, you've got to be quite confident to work in an all-male environment like that, I think.
Yeah, I guess so.
You just didn't even realise it at the time that that's what you were doing.
I didn't realise it.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it. I think I just, yeah, I didn't. I don't think I ever have seen things as barriers. I see where I see that something is different, I say, well, that's an opportunity then.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's definitely a mindset thing, isn't it?
Mm.
Thank you. Thelma, what about you? You've obviously got some experience working in quite male-dominated industries, I would imagine. Oh, you have to unmute yourself, love.
I was just testing.
Yes, if anyone's still here.
Yeah, so I did think about this. And in relation to the publishing industry, one thing that I've learned as a new person is the importance of platforms.
Yeah.
It's the importance of having someone who can champion your cause, someone in a position of great influence. I'm a bit of a dinosaur, as you know, Helen. I've come to the social media and all of that practically kicking and screaming, but I have come to realize that it is incredibly important. Having someone who can champion your cause, start reading your books, promoting those books, and then creating a kind of momentum so that people start to engage with that is very important. And the more that's done, the more that it will come to the attention of the publishing houses, and then they will want to start encouraging their own editors to go out and find these type of writers and authors. So I think that using platforms and getting those in a position to make that kind of change is very important. The other thing that's been mentioned, and which I have experienced in my career at various points, is mentorship. And I think that it was mentioned earlier this evening, mentorship is incredibly important. The only thing I would say about it is that it needs to be a mentorship with teeth. So your mentor needs to be someone in a position of power that can implement any changes that needs to be made. So if as a mentee, and I've come across this many times in my career, you say, I would love to be part of this project because this could advance my career. I would love to be part of this team because I can see that would be helpful for my career progression. Your mentor should be in a position to say, yes, I can do something about that. I can talk to the powers that be, or I can help to implement that change. So I think mentorship is important, but it needs to be with someone who can actually do something about it.
As you're saying that, I'm just thinking Dragon's Den. I mean, I love Dragon's Den, but I'm just thinking Dragon's Den. It's like, I was watching one the other day where there was this woman who had started a makeup business. I don't know if anyone saw it, and it was like a really inclusive makeup business for people with disabilities and neurodivergence or sensitivities to certain things, and she was really cool. And basically, she didn't get any of the money she wanted because, I mean, essentially, no one was going to invest in it because it was like, I think her turnover was something like £3,000 the year before, so it wasn't even in like an investable position. But what I thought was amazing was that they basically all offered to help, and I thought that is worth more. Like them mentoring her is worth more than like the 20 grand that she wanted, because she's going to have like their expertise, like somebody opening the door to that supply chain, someone opening the door to that retail system. And I was just like, wow, I wish I could go on there and just get them to help me. I don't even need their money. I want them to like open the doors for all these things for me, which is like basically what a mentor would do. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right in terms of the role of a mentor, but also the fact that it does have to be someone that actually is going to be able to make that change and help that person, not just through, oh, I've done that a few times. Like they actually need to be able to like make stuff happen. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. Really, really interesting. Thank you. Denise and Abiola. So my question to you two is, how can readers, writers and the wider industry support more diverse and inclusive storytelling? So Denise, should we start with you? And your dog? If you want to say something, he's welcome. Has he got an opinion on this? I don't
know. Yes, I think in today's climate of censorship, seeing a lot of censorship, I think, at the moment. Not only in this country, but around the world. So I think it's more important than ever to oh, sorry, I've got two dogs on the go here. More important than ever to champion each other and keep telling our stories. One of my favourite people to follow on Instagram is Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, not only is she a great actress, but she's also the biggest champion of other women. And, you know, all of her posts on Instagram and social media are all basically cheering on other women. And I think that is what we should be doing more of. We need to keep telling our stories. We need to keep telling them with loud voices so that we're heard. But I think we also need to champion each other because, you know, it is a man's world still. Whatever anybody says, it is still. And while men are not collectively championing women, then we have to do it. And I think that is why storytelling is so important. We need our voices, and that is the best way to be heard.
Love that. Absolutely love it. Thank you. Really, really good. Abiola, do you have any thoughts? I mean, I know you do.
My brain's a bit slow today, so bear with me. I would say, like, it's our duty to try and find those voices that we can then champion, because I think, especially like with books, for example, the books that you see that kind of are like put in your face a lot are the ones that the publishers have chosen to be the forefront, and they put the money behind it. And there are many, many, many great books that don't get that limelight, that don't get their support, debuts that come out and basically, you know, with a big publisher and are told, you know, you're going to be like our mid-list, so you're going to get some stuff but not really. And that's a debut person who is diverse, and you're really then relying on the readers to find them and to accelerate them. So I think it's about just kind of like going out of your way to try and find more different voices. The Diverse Book Awards is great because we have, like, on our website, we still have like all the short lists and long lists from the very beginning of the competition back in 2020. And I guarantee you'll go through it and there'll be authors that you'll see, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know that one. And there'll be quite a lot you've never heard of before. And they are all brilliant books. So I think it's about finding those stories. And also when you find them, share them. Like, I think, I mean, Helen said this at Yelp to some bloggers, because we were saying, like, I think sometimes, like, you can think as a reader, oh, I don't have a massive following. If I'm sharing this book, no one's really caring. The author cares. I promise you the author cares. So use your platform to talk about these books and highlight them, because there is power with your voice, and publishers will pay attention to things like that. So there are like little things that you can do to help. So that's my advice.
Completely. And what I think is really interesting about that is that Thelma, who is only a complete newbie to this whole publishing, self-confessed newbie, by the way, that's not me labelling you there, to the whole publishing thing, immediately identified that the role of indies have in influencing what publishers then go on to take on. And it's like, often it's the indies that take the risk and do work with the debuts, do work with the underrepresented writers, do kind of try and accelerate voices that mainstream publishing, the big publishers, might not have taken the risk on. And then it's like, oh, when we've tested it out, then it's like, oh yeah, we'll take them now. But that's also in terms of what's trending, in terms of, you know, reviews and which books are being talked about by reviewers and readers and things. So is that power is in the reader's hand, as you say. And I think a lot of the time readers don't realise how much of a power they do actually have, and can actually shape the future of a author's career, which is insane, really. But I mean, it's exactly how it should be, because when you write, you're writing for your book to be read. So that's kind of the whole point. Thank you very much, Abiola. Okay, so we're going to move on. I'm very aware that we're over halfway now, so please do start putting some questions into that chat, because we've only got about another 10 minutes of me asking questions, and then I want you guys to get involved. So okay, we're going to look at breaking barriers and taking action, because I think that's quite a brave thing to do, is to actually stand up and like make a point and say something and challenge somebody's behavior, or try and break a barrier that you've experienced. So Sarah, would you be able to share anything in terms of like a professional or a personal experience where you felt compelled to take some bold action to overcome a challenge or break a barrier as a woman? And if you haven't, then that's also interesting, because I would love to know how you managed to get through life without that. So yeah, if you could share some experiences about your bold action that you've taken, that'd be amazing.
Oh, happy to share a couple of things. So very fortunate to be a regular speaker at Said Business School, which is part of the University of Oxford. And I started 3 or 4 years ago. I did a couple of engagements there, and now I'm regularly in Oxford. And when I go there, I'm generally speaking about leadership. And I'm challenging the strong man, the strong woman model of leadership, the command and control model of leadership. And I am talking about and taking people through an exploration of leadership that is much more relational, much more collaborative, energizing people to do great work because it's meaningful. And I really appreciate Said bringing me in, and I feel challenged every time I walk into the room. It's highly international. There might be 45 CEOs there from all over the world, from different cultural contexts, with different models of leadership. So that's one thing. And the other thing I'll just share briefly is that tomorrow, I'm speaking at an event in London at the IOD, the Institute of Directors, about my latest book, Now We're Talking, and the difficult conversations. It will be mostly women there, but not exclusively women. And I've challenged myself to speak to the women there about resources that I think we have, particularly as women, that are underutilized. Okay. And a good example of that is what's sometimes called cycle power. So tuning into where we are in the menstrual cycle, if we're still in those years. And I think that cyclical awareness can help us to pick our moment very wisely about when we challenge in a conversation, or when we might choose to keep our peace, because actually we're feeling quite vulnerable and quite fragile, because our energetic state shifts with that cycle. And so I'm going to be speaking to that tomorrow, because I've used it, I've benefited from it, and I'd really like to open up the conversation about women using cyclical awareness in their conversations. So,
wow. Well, I mean, I would love to know how that goes. So you'd have to message me afterwards and tell me how that goes, because that is very different. I've never heard that I've never even thought about that as a concept. So that's very interesting.
Well, I should just acknowledge where that comes from. A fabulous writer called Alexandra Pope, who has been something of a mentor for me. So just to shout out for her.
Oh, interesting. And why is it that it's mostly women at the IOD tomorrow? Is that how it's been marketed, or is that just how it is? Like, what's the...
Well, it's an event for International Women's Day.
Okay.
Taking action for equality. Interestingly, the keynote speaker is male, Mark Freed, who runs an organisation called Men for Inclusion. Right. And I know there are going to be a handful of male leaders attending who are real allies of women progressing in leadership. And it will also be true that the majority of people in the room will be women. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Thank you very much. Abiola, I'm going to come to you next. So have you faced any discriminatory challenges in your journey as an author or in your career on a wider level, and how did you navigate them?
Oh, so many. I don't know what to pick, to be honest. One that kind of springs to mind was when I got my first agent. So I'm on my third agent. I'm not a difficult person. It just worked out that way. But my first agent was this lovely Italian woman. And it's when my first book, Emily Knight, she was pitching it out, and she was getting like lots of great feedback, but we weren't getting anything like concrete. And we did get a deal offered, but then they made everyone redundant. So my deal kind of went out the window. That was probably like the best shot we had with that book at the time. And I remember meeting up with her in London Book Fair and kind of being like, look, like, what's going on? Like, what do we do with this book? And she basically just said, oh, it's just, they're just not as open as you think they would be. And I said, kind of joking, like, oh, do you think it's because I'm black and the character's black? She was like, yeah. And this was back in like 2016 type of time. And I remember being like, oh wow, because I didn't really mean it, do you know what I mean? So I was like, oh, okay. And she was like, they're just not willing to be diverse, they're not willing to push it out. And even though they like the book, there's still a part of them just like, who's gonna buy it? Because it's got a black girl on the cover. And it was a very it was very weird. And it was weird as well because my friend actually said it to me and she was like, do you think it's because she's a black girl? She was like, do you think it's like you're black, that's why I don't want it? And I was like, no, of course not. This is before I thought publishing had a diversity issue. So when I kind of said that, I was really much joking. But how I changed that was I just thought I could either be like, feel sorry for myself and, complain about it, or you make some changes. I'm all about making changes. So we had hashtag, we had our own publishing house, and Emily and I went under that and did fantastic. And also, the Diverse Book Awards, that came about again because I was looking at competitions to enter our hashtag books into, and there was only like one, the Jalak Prize, that was for diversity. And I was like to Helen, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, we've just done this whole like lockdown, everyone's talking about, we need to be more diverse, and the black squares and all that nonsense they were doing. And everyone was acting like it was going to be a big change, and there still wasn't stuff really there for us. It was still like the prizes that the same people won, and it was like, let's make something. And me and Helen never know what we're doing, to be fair, and somehow it works out. And we just feel like, let's just go for it. So yeah, I'm definitely someone that's dealt with a lot of issues in this industry, but I'm someone that likes to fix things. And thankfully, I signed with a new agent 2020, and she is a beast. She is just like a lioness, and she is obsessed with everything black I give her. So it works out great for me.
She is an absolute legend. So yeah, it's finding your allies, I guess, as well, isn't it? It's finding people that are going to be able to help in that situation, as well as because you can't take everything out on yourself as much as I know you like to. Sometimes you have to let someone else do some stuff, and it is hard when what I can't remember the exact phrase that we've said like a million times before, but it's something like, you don't just like push the door down, like you have to like make your own door, and then you have to basically like kick it in. Basically it's that kind of vibe of like,
that's it, you have to like make your own doors, you have to make your own table. And I think because publishing does have a major diversity problem, there are just certain opportunities that just don't exist, and someone has to make opportunities. If you think you're in a position to do it, then you should do it. So you make your own table, you grab your own chair, you sit it, and you wait for people to join you, rather than keep waiting for the invitation that probably won't come because they're not even thinking about someone like you. And it doesn't sound fair because it isn't, but I also think that there's room to make changes. And once you make a change, it's a domino effect, isn't it? Once we did the Diverse Book Awards, people started popping out with different types of awards that were then celebrating diversity, and they all work very nicely together, and it's great. And that's what you wanted, but you just needed kind of someone to kind of start off, and then it kind of does that. So
well, it's a bit like you just needed someone to write a book with a strong black female young protagonist in it to kick off that as well, right?
Exactly.
I mean, there's like, I can't even imagine that having that same conversation now.
No,
2016.
No, they would love that it was a black girl as a strong protagonist, but back then that wasn't a thing. And it's so interesting now to see so many books come out with black people on the cover being strong and whatnot. And I'm just like, wow, how times have changed. Because my book was definitely before its time, because exactly. People were just like, whoa, like, she's black and she's rich and she's strong.
She's strong, yeah. And she's young.
Protest this. So yeah.
Wow. I mean, like 4 coming out soon, guys, just so you know. Okay, thank you so much. So Denise and Catherine, we're going to come to you next. So what roles do you think books and storytelling this is in fiction and non-fiction what kind of roles do you think they play in driving societal change and inspiring action? So basically, how important are books for making changes when it comes to accelerating action? Would you like to go first, Catherine?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, I think they're really important, both fiction and non-fiction.
Yes.
Literature, I studied English at university, actually, so I've always loved literature, even though I write non-fiction myself. And literature just opens your mind to other possibilities and situations that you haven't encountered in your own life. And so, and I remember when I was a child, I used to read all the Enid Blyton books. I know they're not popular now, but I identified with George, the tomboy, and then when I came across the Little books, I identified with Jo, the more feisty girl who went on to have sons. I have 2 sons. So I think it's really important that you can see somebody doing something in literature or in non-fiction that you maybe haven't come across in your own life, and that helps you challenge those assumptions about what you can or can't do in your own life. And in my non-fiction books, I have lots of little case studies, and one thing we're really careful to do is they're all based on real cases, but obviously you change the names, but we change the names to all sorts of names, different cultures, different ethnicities, different languages, to show that, so that the case studies in the book, to show that this stuff can happen to anybody and anybody can do these things. So that's one small way we've tried to address this in the my 2 non-fiction books, and I'm sure Sarah's books and others as well. But no, I do think it's it's just so important to be able to see examples of what you might do. But and I think all my life I've challenged assumptions. As I said, I did English at university, so people used to say to me, "Oh, well, you'll be a teacher then, won't you?" No, I wasn't going to be a teacher. I was going to go into industry and business and so on. I think I automatically, to some extent, that's almost like Jo was saying earlier, you also have to have it in yourself to challenge some of those assumptions and be willing to stick your neck up and say and do stuff that might not fit other people's stereotypes.
Yeah, it's that word stereotypes again that I think is exactly it. Thank you. Denise, do you have any thoughts around the role of books and in terms of representation and inspiring action?
I agree with everything Catherine said there. I've got 5 children. I always read to my children every night, from as soon as they were old enough to sit up and listen. They all love books. All our houses are filled with books. And I agree, that is how you learn and that is how you grow. And the world is a diverse place, and there is no reason at all why that shouldn't be represented in literature. And when I was thinking about this question yesterday, what actually sprang to mind, and I thought was quite scary, was the emergence of AI in literature. And I just started thinking, the big tech companies that are wielding their AI lightsaber around, and just stealing everyone's work and creating their own literature from it. What they're going to do is trawl out books that are bland. I don't think AI, well, I say I don't think, there's no character in AI, is there? As Catherine said, we write from the heart, we put our soul into our books, and that is where you get the diverse presentation, because we take a piece of our own lives and we put that into our work. And with AI, that's just going to eradicate all of that. Yeah, it's just going to, as I said, they're just going to churn out the books that they're told to churn out, as opposed to what people really need to read. And again, I think this is why we just need to keep writing, keep being diverse, keep getting ourselves into our books so that other people can learn from us.
It's a really good point that I hadn't thought about in the context of this conversation, that AI obviously is taking information from a certain pool, right? And the control of that pool, so like the history, the heritage of the sorts of books that are being put into that machine to then pour out, is probably going to be not so diverse, right? And not so representative, because it's going to be like a small pool of types of books, and it's probably going to be from books from a while ago. And, you know, Abiola said about the story from 2016, which is not that long ago. It's like, how old are these books, and what kind of representation is in them that's then being fed into the AI machine to then turn out the new books is kind of a really, well, it's a massive subject we could get into. And I know there's a lot of conversation around AI, but I hadn't even thought of it in the context for this one. So thank you very much, Denise, for making us think about that. Joe and Thelma, just the last questions for you, and then we're going to open to questions from anyone that's got any. So I'd just like to, because you're both at your early stages of your author careers, in terms of your book's just literally just come out on 25th. Thelma, your book's coming out in April, so like really, really early days. What advice would you give to any women who are watching, or anyone really who's watching this, who are looking to move into the world of being an author and working in publishing from a debut perspective? What have you learned? Is there anything that you wish that you could have known before you kind of went into this? So any kind of little bits of advice would be really cool. So Thelma, we'll start with you.
Well, I think the first thing is, whatever genre that they want to write in, and so with mine, it's memoirs. Read lots of books in that genre. I don't think that I read enough memoirs before I wrote mine, and I'm sort of playing catch up now. So I'm doing a lot of reading. I'm reading a lot of wonderful memoirs at the moment, and it's really informing my skill set of how to write memoirs, because I will be writing more in the future. So that's the first thing, to read a lot about what you want to write about, see how other authors have done it, see their style, see what you like, what you don't like. So that's definitely the most important thing. And the second, I would say, is for me, is to get used to social media and to make peace with the fact that you will need it a lot more than I suspect other authors have needed it in the past. I feel like I've come into an era where this is a massive thing, and it has probably changed the landscape for many authors, having to deal with social media, having to deal with creating your brand, and so on. And I'm sensing as well that things have changed a lot, and that authors now have to be very responsible for their own brand. They have to be responsible for making sure that they are out there, that the publishing houses don't necessarily help you with all of those things. So I think that they need to look into that. What is their social media presence like now? How can they get used to using these platforms, getting used to it? Because it will save them a lot of time once they start writing and once they start trying to market their books. So those are the two things. Basically, a lot of research, and again, going back to what I said before, if they're able to, finding a mentor, someone who can guide them along the way, someone who can give them some pointers and say, this is the kind of thing you should be thinking of. Because I do feel as though I am like a baby. I'm like a toddler in this world, as you know. I'm asking you all the time, Helen, what about this? What about that?
That's what, I mean, that is what we're here for, and that's why I like working with debut authors, because I can see like the steps that I can help you with, and it is there are clear steps you can take, but I know it feels very overwhelming when you're starting off and you're like, well, I've got to learn this, so like you say, if you can have already got experience in terms of like social media platforms, for example, or at least you've got that background, that foundation, rather than trying to, otherwise it is a lot to have to learn how to start building brands and being on socials and doing your website and doing all your marketing and all, as well as writing and reading and editing. So yeah, it's a lot, but if it was easy, then everyone would be doing it, and everyone says they've got a book in them, but I genuinely do not believe that is true. I do not think I think that most people don't have a book in them, and they definitely wouldn't be able to make it happen, even if they do have a book in them.
You're absolutely right. And I have to say that I have doffed my cap to all authors, because I realize, having written my book, how astonishingly difficult it is. So yes, I think getting as much help as you can, laying the foundation so that you can be a success is of the utmost importance. So that would be my advice. Read. Social media.
Thank you. That's really good advice. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, great advice, Thelma. I feel you on that. My advice would be it's never too late
Yes.
is one thing, because and it's never too late to be a newbie in a new industry completely. I mean, this is completely new for me. And I often meet people that are much younger than me thinking it's too late for them to do something. So it's not over till it's over.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And the other thing, just to pick up on earlier, was the confidence thing. Because often people think, oh, you've got to have a lot of confidence, or I don't have a lot of confidence. Confidence is a skill that we can learn. We can take situations in our mind, in our imagination, to very uncomfortable, embarrassing places and handle it and teach ourselves to handle it. So I think that not having something that you think other people have got and that's what's got them there, have a look at that. Have a look at that. Is that something I can learn? Because I do think that we can learn anything we want to learn, if we put in the time and be consistent. So yeah, I would say those two things. It's never too late, and whatever you want to learn, you can learn.
And be consistent.
Yeah, I mean, consistency is, as you know, yes, I could talk for hours about consistency.
Consistency is like the one thing that I talk about all the time. It's like it's the differentiator between authors who are incredibly successful and those that are struggling. And I'm not saying they're not successful, but they're struggling for whatever reason, and it's just they've lost that element of consistency. So yeah, I think that's perfect. Right, we've got one question in the chat. If anyone else wants to raise your hand, and then I can unmute you, or you can unmute yourself, or however we want to do it. We've got 5 minutes, so we might as well fill it. So we've got a question for you, Sarah, from Tia. So Sarah, as some of your market is already in the States, do you foresee greater difficulty in marketing your book there as a woman writer in the Trumpian era, where despite the free speech mantra, the voices and books of anybody not male and white, hetero, etc., are liable to be banned, basically, potentially? And how do you hold your space in the States as a female writer in 2025? Interesting question.
That's a great question. Thank you, Tia. The short answer is, yeah, probably. There might be more difficulty marketing my books in the current era, partly maybe because I'm a woman, but also because of the topics that I write about. So just as DEI is getting a real hit at the moment, so is purpose. There's a real backlash against the purpose-driven business movement. But one of the places I go inside myself at the moment, because my heart is absolutely sinking a lot of the time about what we're seeing on the world stage about leadership, is, you might remember, but 5 years ago at Davos, the main speaker there was Greta Thunberg. This year at Davos, the business leaders were all, it sounds like, talking about the impact of Trump. And I bring that up because it's a measure of how far the other way the pendulum has swung in 5 years. And who knows what space we're going to be in 5 years' time in the future. Maybe the pendulum swings back the other way. And so I'm in writing, and Helen, you've really helped me with this. I'm in it for the long game. There will be more books coming, and I'm playing the long game here. So yeah, sure, Trump, we're in a Trump era at the moment, but it could all look very different in a few years' time. Who knows?
I bloody hope it does look a bit different in a few years' time. That's all I say. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You've got to sort of like be in it for the long term and ride out the ridiculousness at times, don't you? It is a bizarre time to be doing anything in terms of marketing into the States from a UK perspective, I think. So I can't even imagine what it's like from within. But thank you. Is there any other questions? Anybody want to unmute themselves and ask a question? Use your voice. Silence. So everyone feel like they've had enough inspiration by the sounds of it. We've got smiley faces, so that's nice. And thumbs up. Oh, well, I'm going to take that as a win. Okay, well, we'll wrap up. I'm sure you've all got dinner to go and eat and things to go and do, but thank you for sharing an hour with us. It's been really, really interesting. I've made notes, as I always do. I will be sharing this onto YouTube. Like I say, this is going to be going out to some secondary schools tomorrow and to some libraries, so which is just wonderful, because hopefully some of these conversations will actually inform some of these people, these younger people, to think, actually, I want to be a writer, I want to work in publishing, I want to make the door, make the table, and get people to come and sit at the table with me. Thank you to our amazing guest speakers this evening. I'm so grateful to you all. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Abiola. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Thelma. Thank you, Catherine. The 6 of you have been incredibly helpful and all had very different experiences to share. And I really do, like I say, appreciate you spending an hour of your free time with us. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful, whatever you do on Saturday, whether you remember it's International Women's Day or not, have a wonderful Saturday. And yeah, enjoy. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Have a lovely evening. Go back to bed now, Joe.
Yeah.
See you later.